Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode 44. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells, and today I'm really excited to share my guest with you today. She's the brain behind SavvySexySocial.com, and I'm really excited to have her on the show and have her share her journey over the last few years with me and with you as a listener. So today's guest is Amy Schmittauer. I think I said that right.
Sure
and we
did.
are going to we're going to shoot the Schmitt.
Yeah, I love it.
I hear you might have had a podcast called
I did.
Shoot.
You know what it was?
I can't even spell it.
It's Shoot the Schmitt. Come on, you can't
Shoot
yeah.
the Schmitt.
Shoot the Schmitt.
There you go.
You know, it was like so fun just kind of chatting with friends on Skype, and I just wanted to turn it into a podcast, so I just started recording them, and I was like, okay, let's just do this like live podcast type interview series, and we'll call it Shoot the Schmitt, because that's basically all we're doing is basically hanging out, shooting the Schmitt, you know, there's a much better term, but that was the witty title that we came up with, and that was how it started.
And iTunes won't let it, and you can't use that other term.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that's probably true. It hadn't even crossed my mind, to be completely honest with you.
That's good. Well, like I said, Amy, I'm really excited to have you on the show. You've been doing YouTube videos and blogging and vlogging with the V for a very long time. I want to get to know how you got started on that, all the way up to this latest media called podcasting that you have just started. So how did take us back, maybe tell us when it was, how many years ago or whatever, if you're comfortable, and how you got started Savvy Sexy Social in your own business. That's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back probably 6 years now or something. I don't remember. I started making videos a long time ago. I've been on YouTube since I think 2008. It was just something I loved to do. I loved to edit, and I had to come up with content to edit, and I did. And then I thought, this YouTube thing is cool. Great. We'll put all the content there. And that's literally how it started. I just loved making videos, and I loved to edit. Later on, in my journey, after a lot of time on the internet and learning things, about all of the world, from my town of Columbus, where I just basically understood the world by being on the internet all the time, much like a lot of people, I was like, I kind of like this marketing thing. So maybe I'll do that. And it was a really interesting transition for me because I had gone to school for political science. I was working with the best fundraiser in the state of Ohio. We were doing it and doing it well. And I was doing what I was going to do forever. And this was supposed to be what I loved, but I was finding that marketing was something that I was very excited about, and eventually found out that this is what actually my passion looked like. So, with some, tough decision-making on my part for about a year to 2 years, I had to make sure that this was really something that I wanted to do. So I was really kind of building this business on the side, if you will. I hate it when people say that, but that was what it was. Everybody says I'm going to build it up on the side of my full-time job so that the jump is so much easier because I'll have all this income coming in. And sometimes it happens that way and sometimes it doesn't. And when you are a client services business, it's much harder to do that. So eventually.
So did you have a full, what we call, day job
for
a while?
Oh, yeah.
That was during this first 2 years.
That was literally. That was supposed to be it for me. I was there, and that was when I decided that I liked marketing. So I thought I have to do this on the side and really get some experience under my belt for me to be able to let the world know that I want to do this for a living and eventually do it full time, because I didn't go to school for it. I didn't have any experience. I was just taking anyone who would let me and doing it for free because I had no other options.
Was your plan to go and work for somebody else, or have you always had this entrepreneur spirit?
I don't think I had the entrepreneurial spirit. I think I just wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be free. I wanted freedom. That was it. It didn't matter what that looked like to me. If it meant working for somebody and they were flexible with me, or probably just working for myself and I had to do the hustle, I was fine with either one of those. It just obviously is easier for you to just be your own boss and not let somebody else tell you when you're going to get a paycheck paycheck, but to determine that for yourself. So that's what happened. I started working for myself, and really, I just loved the opportunity to be home with my dog all day and work in an industry that I loved. And that was it. Like, that was my motivation. And now, of course, sure, we can call it an entrepreneur, and that's what I am. I'm a small business owner. I work for myself, and I'm free. I make the decisions of how I live, how I spend my money, and how I make my money. And I love that. And that's really where the video from live casting turned into video about marketing. You know, when I took that jump and started the business, I needed an outlet to let people know I know what I'm talking about and you should hire me. There were a lot of thought leaders in the industry at that time who were using video, but more like, we're thought leaders already. We'll flip on the webcam and yammer on for 10 to 15 minutes, and people will hang on our every word because of who we are. If I was going to use video to get people's attention, it was because I know how to edit well. And that's how I ended up, you know, being found, is people were not feeling like it was a chore to watch videos about marketing because I was making it so quick and consumable. And that's what SavvySexySocial.com is.
Here's maybe a weird question. For a long time, I kind of thought if you had a good sales team, you wouldn't necessarily need marketing. And I've worked at companies where the marketing departments didn't do a whole lot. Mm-hmm. I have since learned that that is not really true at all.
Yeah, it's really not.
So how would you describe the difference between sales and marketing? Because I think if we were on the phone, I could uncover your needs and sell you a product. I've been very successful at that. However, I think I suck at marketing. Mm-hmm. How would you?
It's kind of like it's kind of like just get out of the box. A lot of people even think of networking as sales because they're going into a situation where they're like, I got to get all my business cards out. I got to meet as many people as possible, and I got to get them to hire me. That's not what networking is. That's not what marketing is. You're marketing yourself every moment of the day. Every decision you make, what you wear, how you speak, how you decide how to talk to people, what commonalities you have with other people. Everything you do is marketing your brand. And that's why Savvy Sexy Social is the lifestyle vlog, because the marketing lifestyle vlog, because we are talking about how marketing is not something that you put into a department, into a nice little box. It's something you do all the time. You're constantly marketing your business. So sales, I would say the difference really is when you're talking about sales, you're talking about something that's much more formal process, where marketing is something that you can do trial and error, all these different things, all these different venues, all of these different platforms, and even just being in person and how you present yourself, you're marketing yourself every time you do that. You're not in a sales mode every single time you do that. And hopefully you're not, because you need to be creating these personal relationships in order to take that next step in your sales funnel. It's a very, very top of your funnel, this marketing and networking thing. So they're very different things. I'm always marketing myself, everything that I do. I'm not in sales mode right now. I'm doing a podcast. I'm being interviewed. I'm in marketing mode. I'm letting people know who I am, what I do, and that I'm damn good at it.
Do you like the term interview, or
I hate the word interview, actually.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
That's
hate
what
it.
I thought you said.
Honestly, I really, and that was the main reason why I started Shoot the Schmidt, was because I hated the word interview, and I wanted to just let myself down easily to do this and not feel like I had to be super prepared and do interviews, and we could just talk and be like, oh, really? That's true about you? That's so cool. Like, instead of feeling all weird that I didn't do my homework. I just don't like the word interview, because I think the best way to explain it is, we're talking right now, we're getting to know each other. That's real life. That's networking. And we're just putting it out for the rest of the world to hear. So that's why I don't like the word interview, but it's a thing. So,
and we're kind of talking about, and this right now, it feels like an interview, and I don't want it to.
I know.
And
no, it's just so annoying when you feel like that and you're like, okay, what do we do to take us out of interview mode and make this just a normal conversation? Let's talk about how I have terrible traffic in the background. I mean, that's just a legit issue that I have all the time, and I'm really sorry about that.
Is that in Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, I live downtown. I have audio issues all the time because my window's on the main drag. I've got traffic outside all the time, and that's just real life for me. So I'm not gonna go and hide in a closet to do this interview, because I'm just letting you know who the heck I am.
What kind of microphone do you have?
I have an Audio-Technica ATR 2100, I think.
It's a great microphone.
Yeah, it's actually
but
really
it's
nice.
It's one of those that does pick up a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I turned the I'm hot in my room right now because I turned the fan off because I don't want it to interview. All the things that interfere. I said interview.
Yeah.
I don't want it to interfere. All the things that we do to make these crazy podcasts and videos, which you've made a ton of. And when you're talking about marketing and offering value, I remember a video that you did for Jab, 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 Right Hook. Do you remember that one?
I sure do.
Gary shared that, and I don't think that was my first video that I saw about you. I don't remember the first one, but I always remember thinking how much fun it looked like you were having. And from the few podcasts that I've listened to where you've been a guest, it sounds like you really are having a lot of fun.
Well,
So
I'm definitely in the honeymoon phase with podcasting. I think it's so much fun. And the reality is, when you go on a podcast, when somebody asks you to be on their podcast, seriously, like, why do you not go balls out for that? I'm sorry to say that, but like, you absolutely have to be the best representation of yourself, because you're trying to talk to people and let them know why they should give a crap about you. So why am I going to sit here and just answer your questions all boringly and be like, oh, here's my story, I've said it a million times? Like, no, you've never heard it. I'm going to make this as riveting for you as possible, because you're taking the time to listen to me. I'm sitting in your ear while you're working out or doing work, and I'm trying to make it more fun for you in that moment. You may think you're multitasking, but you're really listening to us right now. So that's a huge privilege, and I got to make it fun for you. So I sound fun on podcasts because I'm having a genuinely good time, and it needs to be worth it for everybody involved.
I completely agree. How do you prepare to be on podcasts? Because now that people, I don't know, it has, well, let me ask you this, instead of me assuming, has the number of interview or chat requests you've gone up since you started a podcast?
Yeah, it has. I think that the podcast industry just starts to get wind of like who's getting started and who's fresh and who's actually got somewhat of an archive, and maybe they just haven't hit the radar yet. So yeah, I think that definitely since I started a podcast, more people are saying, hey, you should be on my podcast. It's very incestuous, but that's how collaborations work. That's just how it works. It works in the podcasting industry. It works in the video industry. Any video blogger, anyone on YouTube you've ever seen, they may have had a viral
maybe it works
hit.
in any industry.
Any industry, collaboration,
We
period.
do business with people who we like, and I've noticed this. I mean, it's always been there, but I've really started noticing over the last couple of months that, you know, like Seth Rogen and they always make those stoner movies together. Mm-hmm. You know, they bring their friends on set and have their actor friends do movies with them, and they just kind of go. I mean, it's how Matt Damon and what's the other guy from Good Will Hunting? Ben Affleck. Yeah. That's how they got started, and they've built a relationship with one another. They raise each other's credibility. You know, the rising tide raises all boats kind of thing. So
yeah, that's a really good observation. It obviously works in every industry, because it may feel like a treat to the audience that it's like, oh, this is so cool because I like both of these people, or I'm really glad this person introduced me. And it's a great strategy because you're getting the opportunity to possibly be in front of other people's audiences. So it's especially famous on YouTube, the collaboration effort. It's really the way to grow more organically on the platform, is to just team up with people and talk about things that the two of you have in common that makes sense for both of your audiences.
I think so many people see it as competition. Like, well, Amy's got a podcast now, so she's my competition. And obviously, you just mentioned it. You've been doing YouTube for 5 or 6 years now, it sounds like, and you've had a lot of collaboration. Was it a conscious thing for you to say, hey, these people aren't my competition, they're my potential partners? Was that a switch for you, or did it just kind of happen over time?
I don't think competition has never really entered my mind, because that's just not the way people on YouTube operate in their mind. So naturally, when I come over to podcasting or any other form of media that I'm sharing, I never think of anyone as competition. I never think of what are their stats versus my stats, and why am I not as good. It has nothing to do with that, because it's actually a huge opportunity to just work together. Even if working together just means hanging out in each other's comment sections, it's totally something that works in terms of collaboration, and you can do that. And especially if you're going after someone that is really close to your level. That's the key thing with YouTube, is people do get the misconception when they're very small and they're just getting started, that they can go to anyone and collaborate, because we talk about collaboration so much and how much we like it. But at the same time, it only makes sense to do that when you're going to somebody that's in your industry or at least complementary and can say, hey, we're about the same level in terms of following. And I think it'd be great if we could team up and do something together and let our audiences know about the other person, because there isn't competition. Your audience is going to be happy that you were introduced to that person by the person that you already like. And now you just have more people to follow. And that makes it really fun to be on that platform.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to change gears for a second, because you've been doing what a lot of people in my audience and what I want to do. I working on my business full time, but I'm not making the kind of money that I want to make. And I know some of the people in my audience are just really kind of trying to figure out how they can monetize their blog or just get away from their day job. And I'm going to be interviewed. Do you know? Oh, of course, I forgot his name. He's in Denver, the Leaving Corporate, Greg Hickman. Do you know Greg?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be interviewed on his show in about 2 weeks. And his whole podcast and a lot of mine is helping people leave their corporate job and do what you are doing, traveling the world. I know you've been in Vegas a few times. That's where you met Chris
Cerrone. Mm-hmm.
Cerrone, yes, which I really like that guy.
He is all kinds of fantastic. Can we just talk about the Chris Cerrone show is amazing. It's a phenomenon. And if you're not already listening to it and you're looking to grow your business, you should be, because it's fantastic.
It is definitely a phenomenon, having, he's probably over 60 or 70,000 downloads in
90 days. Yeah.
It's just insane. So how did you get your first customer? How did you sign that first client that allowed you to, hopefully you would consider what you're doing, living the life of your dreams with working for yourself, paying yourself when you want to pay, travel, you could do business from anywhere.
Yeah.
How did you really make your first dollar? Let's start with that. How did you make your first dollar, Amy?
That's a good question. The first dollar came in while I was still at my corporate job, because of course we're all trying to come up with a way to build up enough funds in the side job so that it becomes the full-time job someday, right? So that was of course what happened. However, I still wasn't making enough when I left the corporate job to feasibly live. Let's just put it out there. I wasn't. I took a huge chance because I knew that it was the right time to make the jump from that job. Things had happened in the industry where I was, and things were happening that made sense for me to say, this is it. This is it. I got to do it now. It's going to be easiest for me to leave gracefully here and still keep these contacts, and it'll be great. Not that you couldn't do that in a more difficult time. You just have to, know how to have the right touch and understand what people are going through when you're leaving to make it the most comfortable for everybody. But it was not the best time for me to leave in regards to the income that I was making. So is
there ever a good time?
I personally don't think so at all. I think there are the few exceptions that just absolutely blow it out of the water and can make it happen. But I think in a services-based business like I was doing, it's not that easy, because you basically have to lie to your clients and say that you're already a full-time, because when you tell somebody, I have a full-time job, I'm doing this on the side, but I can do a crazy good job for you and I can still work, 20 hours a week, which is, full-time depending on what type of consulting that you're doing. And 20 hours a week is actually a heck of a lot. But you're still letting them know you have a full-time job. And so in the back of their mind, they're thinking, well, you're not really there, but you are. So what I found when I finally made that jump was all the networking, all the education, all the travel that I had done. I mean, I was spending money and taking my vacation time to go to conferences during that full-time corporate gig because I was so passionate about doing as much as I possibly could. And in the Midwest, social media marketing was not a thing quite yet at this point. It was probably 2010. And I was going to conferences on the West Coast because I knew that's who knew what was up, and that's where the industry was at that time. So I was going there to meet those people. When I finally took the jump and people got the memo that I was full-time on my own, I had referrals right away because all those people that I had been networking with, all those clients who were just this close, they all latched on, and it was like, okay, time to go.
One thing that you've probably, I would say probably more, I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos, but I read a lot of blogs and those sorts of things. I think you're probably one of the best people at interjecting their personality into what they do. I mean,
that's a really big compliment. Thank you very much.
I'm sure. I mean, knowing how much work I put into some things, and I'm not as good at it as you are, I'm sure you put a crap load of time and effort into how can Amy come out in this video. Am I right?
I mean, no. I
So
don't
it's
no,
net.
I just
So
sit
maybe I'm
there.
just bad at it.
Here's the reality. Everybody, that's the number one question I get. It's not what camera do you use, it's not how do you edit. It's how do I have the best personality possible if I want to start making video or do a podcast or even write? How do I have the best representation of me in these
Mhm.
mediums? And the reality is, you don't need to buy a personality. You already have one. It's probably pretty great. Otherwise, you probably don't leave the house and you stay in a dark room all day and don't do anything. But you probably have a personality that's absolutely fine for your target market. You just have to not feel like you're being held back by anything to let it out. And the reality is, people are afraid to be themselves on camera
Mhm.
because they have this level of prestige that they believe their brand needs to have. And they're conflicted as to what that prestige level is with their brand voice. And if you don't have your brand voice defined, and usually your brand voice is pretty close to your personal personality, especially if you're building a personal brand, then you're just not going to come through on camera. That's what I do. I think the advantage that I have is that I am a YouTube watcher. Therefore, I have that same cadence that you would come to expect from a video blogger on YouTube interjected into the marketing content that I create. It's my personality, it's that YouTube cadence, it's the content. And that way, I have people watching my videos that would never even think about starting a business, but they still watch and they learn stuff about something they may never ever implement because I'm entertaining. And they're sitting there learning something in the process, and it's that easy to consume. So businesses and non watching my content, that's really special. But it's come down to, I'm not afraid of the camera. I haven't seen a lens of a camera in years. You need to start visualizing your avatar, your person. Who is your audience? That's who you're talking to. I mean, I literally posted a video today about the fact that my dog was attacked by another dog last week, and it was kind of a weird week. And I was having this moment with my audience, and watching it back, I was like, I feel like I'm talking to myself. Like when you watch that video and you feel like, I feel like she's talking to me right now. It's the same reason why we watch Oprah, we watch Ellen, we watch all those TV shows, because we feel like we're best friends with them. They're talking to us. We watch them every day because they're talking to us. They know us and we love them. It's that personality, it's the personal touch that you have that really makes that work. You just can't be afraid to be yourself and know that that's your brand voice.
So a lot of when people are trying to hold back, not looking so goofy or not looking so wacky or whatever, so we can go further, it's actually holding us
Yeah,
back. And
I think
I've found that to be very true for
just
me.
like I think everybody tries to be super funny on Twitter because it's like everybody wants to be funny on Twitter, right? Because it's so quick and witty. People try to be really wacky and stupid on YouTube, but it's not going to work unless that's truly what you were feeling like you needed to do in that moment. Like if you're doing
Mhm.
it, if you're standing outside of yourself and it's like, I'm just going to like throw my hands in the air and like be crazy for a minute, like if that's like a conscious effort for you, then it's probably not natural. But if it's something that you did out of the passion of the topic and what you're talking about, then that is you and you shouldn't be afraid of that.
Where's the favorite place you've been on vacation?
Oh, when you, like you said earlier, I travel the world. I don't travel the world. I travel the US quite a lot, but I've only left the country one time, and it was to London, England, and I can't wait to go back.
What was CES like? You were at CES this
Yeah,
year,
I
right?
go to CES every year. It's kind of funny because I keep asking myself why I keep going. But the reality is, it's kind of like another great conference opportunity in regards to networking and collaboration. Every
Hmm.
blogger, every, tech video blogger, like people really industry in YouTube and blogging are at CES because that's the place to be. It's 150,000 people from all over the world going to the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. So it's a good opportunity for me to sit down and do some collaborations with people, hang out with people in my industry, and just get to know what's happening in tech. It may not be what I'm focused on for my clients, and I don't necessarily have the greatest tech ever when it comes to my gear, but it's still kind of cool to just be in that environment and know what's going on. So, I mean, it's amazing year after year. I love Vegas and I love CES in Vegas.
But you didn't go to New Media Expo this year?
I didn't. I haven't been going to New Media Expos for a long time. It was my first conference ever, was October 2010 in Vegas. It
Okay.
was the best one. And the reason for that was that's exactly where I was in my understanding of the content. And
Yeah.
my concern with New Media Expo is I hope that they continue to advance that content because as I was continuing to go, it's still very well worth it for the number of people that still go and the networking and all the parties and stuff like that. But the content needs to advance with those return veterans. And so
exactly.
it's very tough to make that financial decision to go to a New Media Expo if the content's not quite there.
Yeah. As a newer person, I'd been blogging under 2 years at that point and had started my podcast like a month and a half before. For me, it was a really good experience. I think for someone like you who's been, it sounds dumb to say in the industry, but who's been doing this type of thing for 5 or 6 years, the content, the seminars, the talks probably wouldn't be at this point, worth the $300 or $400 and 3 or 4 days. But if you're listening to this out there and you're on the fence about going to a New Media Expo and you're not full time but want to go full time, I highly recommend that.
I mean, they get stellar speakers year after year. They really do. And especially when you're even like a couple years in, there's still really, really good content that you should definitely go there for, because there's really not a conference like it. And I think it's only going to get better because of just the way that people are asking for things and are letting conferences know what they really want in content. But I honestly would really only go for the networking, and I just couldn't fit it into that CES weekend. So
what about podcast movement in August?
I am so excited about podcast movement. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
When I found out that was on Kickstarter, especially when it was successfully funded, I have an associate that works with me, and I was like, she's been really interested in podcasting, and I said, we should go to this. So I'm paying for both of us to go. It was great because I got in on it when it was still on Kickstarter, but successfully funded. So that your money's actually going to go toward something that's going to happen. So that's really exciting.
Which ticket did you get?
Do
you remember?
I don't know. Which ticket was I supposed to get? Probably.
Do you know if you got the Friday event and the Saturday night thing?
Like a party? Yeah. I bought whatever the party one was. Yeah. Gotta get that networking in.
Exactly. Me too. And that's the question that I don't know what it was called. I don't know what all you get. I just remember it was the $250 one, and that's the one I wanted.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I just didn't want to ask you. Did you buy the $250?
Yeah, I don't remember what the price was. I don't know if it was the same did you buy it after Kickstarter or before?
Before. I was
okay. So maybe we paid the same thing. I honestly don't remember.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that one. Right? Have you been to Texas in August before?
No, I've been to Austin for South by Southwest, but that's in March. So no, this will be my second trip to Texas. I'm actually pretty excited. I've never been to Dallas.
It's gonna be extremely hot.
Oh, well, that's okay. We're in conference mode. It'll be fine.
Yeah, we're not
gonna leave the hotel.
We'll
let's be real.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, my wife and I moved from the Dallas area to north of Austin.
Okay.
So we know about people here, we call it South by. It's not South by South.
Right, I know. I mean, I call it South by with all the hipsters too, but yeah. You guys are like South bye-bye, we're getting out of town. That's what you call it.
Oh, yeah, I don't. We live almost in Georgetown, which is like 30 miles north of downtown Austin.
Yeah.
And Austin still thinks it's a small place. People get on the highway going 30 miles an hour. It drives me nuts. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from Austin, but I'm 30 miles away. But in Dallas, you could be 30 miles away from Dallas, and people are like, oh, yeah, Dallas. Or North Dallas. Here, when people say North Austin, they mean 20 miles from here.
Yeah.
So like when Jamie Tardy had a book signing down in South Austin, it was like an hour and a half for me to get there. And I'm like, next time, Jamie. Exactly. So being on the Empowered podcast, you might have guessed, or your admin awesome scheduler person might have told you. I didn't tell her, but what does the word empower mean to you?
I think when I think of the word empower, I think a lot. I feel like it's very closely tied to the word inspiration and the people that you've basically decided are your mentors. And I say decided because a lot of the mentors in my life don't have any idea they're my mentor, because they are people that I follow and am very inspired by, and maybe like the same things that they're doing procedurally, or just really love the brand that they're portraying and how they're going through life with their business. So I feel empowered by others. And I think that that's really strong, because we are so impressionable by other people. And the best thing that you can do is surround yourself with the best people. And the way that I surround myself with the best people is by following those digital mentors that I have in my life. And the people that may be far away to me and may not know who I am, but empower me on a daily basis with their content, with their inspiration, with their emails, with whatever they're doing to let their audience know they're there and they're there to help.
Could you share a couple of those digital, I like that term, digital mentor. Can you share who might some of those be?
Sure. I am really a big fan, as you're clearly aware, of Gary Vaynerchuk. I really like what he's doing, and I was very inspired by how he handled himself during the promotion of Jab, 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 Right Hook. Because let's be real, he was in sales mode all day long, every day, but he was doing it while marketing himself. So he would be continuing to give away great content, like a live show or all these things, taking questions from people. And then he'd say, hey, how many books did you buy? And it's like, you just have to love that, because it's like, you know what? I have given you an amazing amount of content, an amazing amount of advice over a period of time. Now it's time to ask, how many books did you buy? Because if you really feel like I can move the needle for you, then you would buy this book, because I made this for you. So that was really inspirational for me to see, because I do want to write a book in the next year to 2 years from now. And so that's a big process and a big commitment. But it's just, yeah, that was really inspiring to see that process. In addition to everything that he does, he has VaynerMedia, and obviously much larger scale than what I'm doing with Vlogboss Studios. But I feel like we're similar in that way. And then of course he makes videos and all this kind of stuff, and so he's very inspiring to me. Let's see.
I bet he sleeps like 5 minutes a day.
I mean, yeah, I know.
Or crashes for 2 weeks at a time.
I know. I really want to get him on my podcast, but just like he was in like super interview mode and marketing mode and sales mode during that book launch, I think he's taking a big break to really just run the business and kind of stop being showy Gary for a little while. And I love that too. That's so smart.
He loved your video.
I know. He did. He sure did.
And I mean, that's how I saw it. He shared it, and I was like, oh. And
what was really
if I had seen
cool about that, though, if I can just interject for a minute.
Sure.
I have another friend of mine, DJ Waldo, who is a co-host of the Work Talk Show podcast, which is an amazing podcast. I mean, what do we all want to know? We all want to know how people get work done. And that's exactly what they talk about on this podcast. It's so great, because it's like less plugging what you do and more about how you actually do it. And that's what we all want to know, right? Like, what time do you wake up and when do you work out? So he actually works for an email marketing company called Marketo, and they had Gary on an interview, like a live seminar. And he had just watched my video and shared it like 2 days before that. And DJ said, I just found your video. I saw that Gary shared it. I am so excited. I'm totally going to ask him about it. So I tuned in for this live show, and they talked about the video. So I actually got to see in real time live what Gary's reaction to this video was and what he thought about it and how it completely fits with everything that he preaches in the book. And it was the best testimonial of all time. I screen grabbed it and shared it. It's on my business website. It was so amazing. I mean, he just said it was great. I mean, we've met in person, and I just blindsided him. Like, I told him I was going to review the book, and he said thanks, just like he does with everyone else. And I knew I had to step it up. Even a video review of the book was not going to be enough. It had to be more. And I just came up with a song and a chair dance, and that was it. Like, I just turned it into a music video, and it blew them away. That's how you let people know what's up. That's how you let them know you're serious about what you're doing, and you'll go the extra mile. So that was really important for me, and getting that feedback and being able to actually see his response to it, not just his Facebook update that he was like, oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. That was amazing all by itself. But to see that on camera was absolutely amazing. And so I thank DJ Waldo for that till the day I die, because I don't think a lot of people get to experience something like that. So really, really cool.
I think I think he would absolutely be on your show. Maybe because I've seen him be on shows where I had never heard of that person, and their interviews with him are not even close to what I know you would do with him.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be a really cool, and if it does, I'm going to be listening to that episode or watching it or however you choose to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you keep coming up with new content? Because you have, what is it, Savvy Tuesday, Sexy Wednesday show? What you have a system there, and
Right.
it's a lot of content. Can you walk us through that, and how do you keep coming up with new content?
Sure.
New, fresh, cool stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm glad you feel that way. I always stress the importance to people of structuring your content and coming up with your format, coming up with your themes. Because if you just tell yourself, even if it's you tell yourself, I am going to blog once a week, that still becomes, it sounds good and it probably fits your schedule and it's totally feasible, but you sit down and you have a blank canvas and that's really difficult. But when you start to theme out the things that you're doing and come up with all those categories that would make sense for you to talk about, and you think about filling those categories, it becomes a lot easier. So by having Sexy Wednesday, Social Thursday, Savvy Tuesday, all that kind of stuff, I've broken that down in my head, what those categories actually mean. And I kind of talk about them, and sometimes they're spot on and sometimes I just work with what I've got. But it helps me be able to say, like, oh, I want to talk about that on my website someday. Fill in the blank. Is it a savvy topic? Is it a social topic? Is it social media related? It would go to Social Thursday. So by theming out 3 videos per week, which is extremely important because that's a lot of content. If you're looking at 3 videos a week and you haven't made it easier for you to come up with ways to fill in the blanks, you're going to fail instantly. So it was really important for me to do that. And that's how I started to finally get my flow with video. And I've only missed 1 episode in the last year and a half since I came up with that format.
Yeah, because you came out with one today called, so this is for everyone listening, this was May 21st, and one today, Life Happens, Adjusting in Your Business Accordingly. So I'm going to have to watch that one. I haven't watched that one
yet. That's, like I said, is about my dog and how,
Lucy?
Yeah, and how last week was really, really difficult for me. And I was very late on Sexy Wednesday and Social Thursday, but I still got them done. And I wanted people to take home that message that I could have told you guys I needed the week off, but I didn't do that. I knew that I was better to keep going. Everything was fine. The family emergency could have been more severe than it was. And it was actually a way for me to feel more normal, to keep doing the content. I was just going to be a little bit behind on it. And I want people to have that as a teaching lesson. So I do recommend that video, but it's sort of a personal one today. There's a message. There's always going to be a message, but I've got a lot of other good videos to watch too that are a little bit more peppy.
yeah, that's one thing I know your videos have a lot of is pep. You recently launched, and we were just talking about that. I think it might have been before we started recording, but you just started the Marketing Lifestyle Show, which is your podcast. You're 4 or 5 episodes in. Why did you start a podcast? You have a successful YouTube channel. You're doing all these cool things on your online. You're doing consulting. You're helping people with their marketing. You're on Gary Vaynerchuk's radar. Why did you start a podcast?
That's a damn good question. Why did I start a podcast? Honestly, no, I have been listening. I'm a huge podcast person. I'm listening to podcasts from the moment I wake up until basically I go to sleep, because I love so many different podcasts and it's so hard to fit them all in. And I wanted that experience. My audience also really wanted more content, but they were suggesting more videos. And I just told them, like, guys, I've got my flow. I've got my structure. You guys know it works. For me to do more videos would just be stupid. Like, it would just be irresponsible. 5 videos a week on this channel would be insane. It's not impossible. It's just insane. So I wanted something where you guys could take me along for a run, or for, some time in your office where you don't have to be so focused on a video. You can listen to me and it can be more relaxed and it can kind of feel like we're hanging out and we're chatting. And that's what a podcast does for you. So I really wanted it. It took me some time to launch it because I believe in imperfect action, which is something that Chris Cerrone talks a lot about. But I also think you need to know what your format is before you jump in. And I needed to know exactly what I wanted this show to be before I started. So I feel like I'm a little late to the podcasting game, but I think it's really good timing for my audience because we are stepping it up together. And like I told them, I'm making changes in my career. I want to write a book and I want to pursue more speaking and all these kinds of things. So for me to step it up with my content and offer them more in another medium is a great way to do that. And podcasting is where it's at. If you think about Stitcher having an agreement to be installed in cars, like, I mean, how do you not want to have a channel there where people can get to know you better and listen when they're driving to their corporate job, when they're trying to learn how to leave their corporate job? I mean, it's absolutely amazing. It's a great opportunity. And for somebody to want to listen to you for that long is very flattering. So how could I not want to do it?
Exactly. I like having a podcast. It's very fun. I think if I had discovered it before, doing 180 blog posts, I might have not started the blog. Although I've gotten a lot out of both.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not gonna lie, the podcasting thing. I'm on my fifth episode comes out this Friday. I'm very, very excited about this episode. It's with Yasser Lester, who is a stand-up comedian who has been touring with Chelsea Peretti, who is an amazing stand-up comedian who's also on the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and which is also a Golden Globe winning show. It's just all kinds of amazing. So we get to talk about what it's like for him to build a personal brand as a comedian and how social media plays a role there. But yeah, it's just so interesting to me how, one podcast a week is probably taking me as long as it takes for me to make 3 videos a week. But that's just because I have the video thing down and I'm really in the honeymoon stage of making and loving and editing podcasting. So it's so much fun. I'm just having so much fun with it. I can't stop talking about it. Tell me to shut up. Just tell me to shut up.
Oh, shut up, Amy. Stop talking about it. I found it usually takes like 4 times. If it took 10 minutes to shoot, it usually takes 4 to 5 times, an hour or so for a 10-minute episode for me to edit it on video. Podcasting, I mean, you just worry with audio. You don't have to worry about syncing any sort of video or whatever. So do we need to wrap up right now, or do you have a couple?
I got a few more minutes. I was late to the party, so yeah, let's.
Hey, I didn't want to bring it up.
It's all my fault, everyone. I was late, and you deserve another 10 minutes because I need to give it to you.
My audience deserves another.
All of you.
So what does a typical day look like for you? You've got the video. Basically, you're doing content 4 days a week. You mentioned before that you've got clients as well. You're fitting in conferences. You're trying to make it to podcast movement in August. What is a normal day? And I use normal loosely, but what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, let's start with the most important thing, and that's sleep. So my day starts when I go to bed every night because I am absolutely adamant about getting 8 hours of sleep. I don't ever miss out on that. I'm very fortunate to be at a time in my life where I can sleep for that long. I don't have any children and I don't wake up because I can't sleep. I'm a very good sleeper and I think I need to take advantage of that for as long as possible until growing up and aging decides to change that for me. That is the reason why I'm able to get through a really long day. I mean, when you work from home, sometimes it's really difficult to draw that line for yourself. That's, hey, this is work and this is home, especially if you have other people coming home and saying like, hey, where's dinner? It's time to switch into home mode. And it's so different when you're an entrepreneur and you're willing to be flexible with yourself. And because you have that freedom, I will work all night if I could, but I'm getting much better at drawing that line. But, I wake up every morning and the first thing I do is probably edit a video. I will say that Mondays specifically are for just me. They're for my business. They're for any marketing. A lot of times I'll schedule podcasts, interviews and stuff to be on Monday. Things all about my company. I'll do my accounting. I'll pay some bills, stuff like that. It's all about me on Monday. I record all Savvy Sexy Social episodes on Monday. That's the goal, is to get them all done. And then that way, Tuesday through Friday, other than editing a video or a podcast in the morning to get it out, I am spending time with my clients. I'm focusing on that work. So to kind of like nutshell it, Monday is for me and my business. Tuesday through Friday is much more for my clientele.
Random question. Since you do all of your videos on Mondays, and I know John Dumas does all of his interviews on Wednesdays and he gets interviewed on Thursdays. Since yours is video and ours are more just audio, do you change clothes before your videos, or people who are really watching closely know you're wearing the same shirt?
That is my favorite question, because it's like, I get that question so much. I'm starting to think
Totally not worth even talking
no,
about. But
I'm starting to think that I don't even have to bother changing my clothes because people don't even notice that I have changed my clothes. I'm like, yeah,
so you do.
every
Then.
single episode I'm wearing something different. I mean, like maybe I didn't change my pants, but you can't see that anyway. Oh, I always change my outfit because I don't want anybody saying like, why'd you wear this? It makes it so much. I mean, like, come on, let's get real. I have to record them all in one day because that's the way I have bucketed my life. But that doesn't mean that you have to look at me in the same clothes every episode. I mean, that would just be shameful as a female who loves to go shopping that I don't have that much clothes that I can share with you. I do, and therefore I will.
Well, I did hear you. I'm referencing a lot of Chris Cerrone, of your last when you were there at his house.
Yeah,
that's one I listened to. You're talking about buying nice shoes and how you buy more accessories than you do clothes.
I do. I love myself some accessories.
I think your phrase was, "These shoes will be awesome, but my clothes suck." Well,
it's
maybe
not
not
like,
exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't so many words that. It was more I wear the crap out of my shoes. I wear the crap out of my jewelry. So it needs to hold up. But clothes fall apart so quickly these days. Doesn't matter how much you spend on them, it seems like. So I just think of it as seasons change, trends change. When it comes to clothes, I can spend a little bit less on clothes and I can focus on those staple things. Or even if we're talking about jackets, I feel like that's an accessory. That's a staple piece. You're going to spend a little bit more on that because it's probably going to last longer for you and it needs to hold up. It shouldn't fall apart. But a typical shirt or blouse or pair of pants, they're just going to wear out after you've washed them a certain number of times. So why am I going to spend all this money on them? It's completely different with shoes and accessories. So I'm much more likely to spend that money there, which is we were talking.
Like a
Go ahead.
gray jacket without a collar.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, that's the one that I'm on your page right now. It's on your pick your brain thing.
Oh yeah, that's my that was my
pick.
classic leather jacket. I still have that. I've had that. That picture is really old, by the way. I mean, that headshot was taken in like 2010 or 2011. I can't remember. It was the only time I've ever cut my hair short. For whatever reason, that's my headshot for a lot of things.
That's not even all. Well, I guess it is longer in the marketing lifestyle thing. Headshot.
Definitely.
So where was I? I've got my list of questions here, and this is one that I wanted to ask you. What are you doing today that will keep you moving forward tomorrow?
Talking to you.
Oh, I like that. It's a great answer.
I mean, that's real life. I mean, this is what you have to do. You have to get yourself out there. And I'm fortunate that you asked me to be on your show. And that's moving me forward in and of itself. But if you're not being asked, you should ask. And I will even say I've had people already asking to be on my podcast. And I'm not prepared to take inquiries yet. I'm being very strategic about who my guests are in these first couple of months. But you should try. You should ask. And then when you get no, think of it as not yet and ask again later and show somebody why you can provide value on their podcast or their web series or even a guest post. Who cares? If you want to hide behind text, that's fine with me. If that's your medium, that's your medium. But you got to put yourself out there.
Hide behind text. Ouch.
Sorry. That's just how I feel about life right now. I mean, come on.
Well, I asked Greg Hickman if I could be on his show, but in my request, it was all through Twitter, so I sent him like 20. Well, it wasn't. I didn't blast. Well, here's the lesson: you don't blast somebody 20 direct messages in a row.
No.
I asked him, what are you looking for? Are you still looking for guests? And he asked me a response that required more than 140 characters in a direct message.
Yeah.
So I sent him a whole bunch, but I said I think my story is relevant to you and your audience and would help them. In fact, I've worked for two of the largest corporate companies in the entire world that everyone from Wall Street to, some hut in Africa has probably heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's anyone who's left corporate, it would be me. And that's how that conversation went. But you're right. You have to, if you ask somebody to be to host you on their show. So if you want to be a guest, you have to make it valuable to them. Because if you ever had somebody that wanted you to do a favor for them, but they hadn't done anything for you, and as bad as that sounds, it's like, why the hell are you asking me this question? Why would I spend time to help you when, again, it sounds bad, but you haven't helped me. I don't know you. I mean, does that sound terrible?
No, it doesn't. I mean, this is just real life. I mean, you need to put it out there that you want to provide value in any way that you can. But at the same time, I would say when it comes to outreach, you can sum it up like this: keep it short and keep it real. Do not put your entire crazy 5 to 10 page bio in this email. Nobody cares. Talk about what value you have to provide and what response you want. What's the call to action? And if the call to action ends up being not interested at this time, that's cool. Let them know, hey, great, I'll check back with you. It's the people that check back, the second ask, that make you go like, oh crap, this person's emailing me again. Okay, let me look at this. Let me think about it. Because you have to keep trying. If you give up right away, that shows a lot about you, actually.
And that's a great life lesson too, whether you're selling something, that follow up. I think most sales, I think it's probably 90% of sales happen after the first contact, and it spikes at like follow up number 8 or something like. Anyway, what was the last movie you saw, Amy?
Oh, crap. What was the last movie I watched? I think it was while I was in Vegas. We were chilling out in the hotel room. There was this movie on. Oh, it was called Drive. Drive. It was on like Bravo or something, because I'm kind of a Bravo whore. It was called Drive.
Is that the Gosling guy?
Yes, right. Thank you, Ryan Gosling, who is drop dead gorgeous. So that was pretty much all I remember from the movie. It's a really bad answer.
You've probably. Yeah, that's not a good movie.
Pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I wish I could tell you I've watched a better movie lately, but I usually watch all my movies before Oscar season, and then I'm done.
I hear you. Are you a Netflix, Amazon Prime, live TV?
I'm all about Netflix. I watch House of Cards more than I watch movies, probably. I just keep watching it over and over. I'm completely caught up. And when the series comes out, I watch the entire thing in 2 days, but I just go back and keep watching it. I mean, it's so good. It is very good. So good. I can't even begin to continue to explain with more words. Like, that's it. It's just so good.
I only watched the first 3 or 4 episodes and I stopped. And no, there's no reason why I stopped.
There's no good reason why you stopped, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Well, we watched that first episode of season 1, and I didn't watch it when it first came, or season 2. I mean, I didn't watch it when people were right when it came out, and I saw people were like, "Oh, you have to watch this first episode," and you're like, okay, this is really good. This is really good. And the last like 30 seconds, you're like,
oh my god,
how in the world did they just do that?
And what's crazy about that is that was the plan since the beginning of the show, and it's just like so insane how like they just.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I didn't mean to say it like that. Cut that part out. That's kind of a messed up thing that I just said that. Okay.
Well, it's vague enough.
It's kind of vague, but man, I don't want to ruin that for anyone. You got to cut that out. Oh, I feel so bad. I was like trying really hard.
Spoilers courtesy of Amy Schmittauer.
Oh my gosh. No, don't ruin the episode with that. Okay. I was just saying, I think it's such a good show that it's good when they do something so insane like that at the beginning of a season, that it's like, it can only go up from here. How is this possible? Like, it's crazy.
And that's like serious. I don't know. I mean, you would be able to answer this question. I don't know if that would be technically like viral content, but that event was shared all over the place, and it's all anybody could talk about. Yeah. So I don't know if that's.
I actually don't usually feel bad for people that don't know what crazy thing happened during a show that end up like finding out online, because they hang out online and they follow all the entities for that show online, and then when the show starts talking about it publicly, they're all mad, and it's like, okay, well, you should have watched it live. Like,
yeah, like, don't follow the actors on Twitter if you're going to be.
Exactly. And I mean, this is, okay, let's just vent about this for just a moment. I love to watch TV. Okay. So I do. And when I tweet about it, especially if it's a show like Scandal or something, everybody gets mad at me because I'm live tweeting with the show, but I live for that. And literally my tweets are OMG. Like, I did not spoil anything for you. I just tweeted OMG and you're mad at me for spoiling the show. Like, how do you not think there's an OMG moment in the show? There's always an OMG moment. So I never give anything away, and people still get mad at me because I have so many followers on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, and they're like, oh, I have to wait 3 hours or I can't watch it tonight. And it's like, oh, personal problem. Like, sorry.
Well, that's what you get for perfect weather and living in a state with like 80% taxes that could fall into the ocean at any time.
I can't even fathom the idea of watching football at 9 o'clock in the morning, but you people have to do it out there. I'm sorry. That's your life.
Exactly. I like the phrase "you people."
You people. No, these. I mean, it's the same people.
Have you ever seen Tropic Thunder?
No.
I don't know if it would be up your alley, but there's alley or not. But there's a scene.
Did you say up your ellery?
Up your alley or not? But there's a scene there like, you people. You know, he's like, what do you mean, you people?
Yeah. No, I think that's like the only like what's it called, preview I've ever seen for that. Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
No.
Okay, well, Amy,
I can say that though because everybody in California gives me crap for living in Columbus, Ohio, but I'm sorry.
As they should.
They can if they want. You can if you want, but I'm sorry. I live in the best city. I love it here, and I can travel and come home. And guess what? My rent is cheap, friends. Okay.
Yeah, California rent is.
Like, I just don't even feel
ridiculous.
I used to always want to live there, but I'm also realistic. I can go. I can spend months there if I want. I've made that decision in my business. But then I can come home and I love it here.
And that's good. If you can do your business online and live somewhere that's cheap. I mean, that's what I think what so many people want to do. Well, my last question for you, Amy. Well, it's really my second to last question, but the last one's really easy. What is one tip or piece of advice that you can give people who are just starting out?
Don't This is gonna sound weird. If you're just starting out, I hope you're in a position to offer something for free. Because if you don't have any experience, you don't have anything to offer. It's kind of like college kids when they leave and they expect the most bomb job ever, but they actually have nothing to offer. You have a college degree. It is literally a line on your resume. There's nothing else that goes into it. If you work in your industry, congratulations. You still need more than that. So you need something more to offer and you need experience. And if it means doing 1, 2, 3 little projects for free just so you've got something to talk about, then do it. And then from there, charge as much as you can. Just always charge more. That's my advice.
Great advice. Great advice. So many people...
The race to the bottom for price, no one wins. You don't do your best work.
That's true too.
And other people, if they beat you on price, let them. They're struggling. Keep charging. If you have a situation where every single person is turning you down and they're all your perfect client, maybe you need to reanalyze your price. But if you're not charging more, you're not going to grow.
Awesome, Amy. This is the final question, Amy. Someone, if they wanted to reach out to you, thank you for hanging out with Ellery and being on the show. Where can we send them, or I send them?
I love to tweet. So twitter.com/Schmittastic, or if you want to follow the updates of the Marketing Lifestyle blog, you can follow Savvy Sexy Social on Twitter.
Which one's more you? Because you have one.
Hold on, I thought that was the last question. I'm just kidding.
Well.
What's your?
So I'll make statements and you just correct me.
Okay, great.
Schmittastic is your personal Twitter.
Schmittastic's where I started it all. That was the beginning of me on Twitter. Savvy Sexy Social is more of a resource Twitter. You're going to see everything that's happening on the blog. You're going to see everything that's happening with the podcast, and you're going to see lots of other great resources in the industry that can help you. Twitter for Schmittastic is all about me.
Awesome. I just followed you on Twitter. See how that turned into an answer?
I heard that click.
Asking one?
I heard that click. It was great. Thank you.
Yeah. See, it's these microphones. Yeah. They do pick it all up. But I'm not in a closet. So. Yeah. Well, Amy, thanks again for spending an hour or so with me. I really enjoyed it, and want to again say thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Ellery. It was so much fun being here.
And I'm so glad that Amy was able to make it on the show. She is so freaking busy. Every time I look at her Facebook or her Twitter, she's speaking at some conference or posting from somewhere doing something cool. And I'm really excited that she was available just for me to have her on my show. Now, she and I are going to be able to meet at Podcast Movement here in just a few weeks. It's the middle, or actually towards the end. Man, so fast. Time goes so fast. It's the end of July here, and in a few weeks we'll be coming to Podcast Movement in Dallas. If you're going to be there, just make sure you look me up. Connect with me on Twitter at Ellery Wells or on Facebook.com/Ellery Wells. I want to meet you. I'm going to be on a panel with a few of my previous guests, a few people that I haven't had on the show. But I'm going to be talking about how to get awesome guests for your show. So if you are going to be in Dallas, if you're going to be a Podcast Movement, make sure that you look me up. I would love to meet you, give you a handshake or a hug, and just hear how you are doing. And maybe if the podcast has changed your life or added some value to you. I always like hearing those kinds of things. But before I go, I wanted to just mention something that Amy said that really stood out to me. She said, you are marketing yourself every second of every single day. Now, that to me is a very important statement. It goes back to personal branding, something that I'm fairly passionate about. I wrote an ebook about it. But personal branding is the message, the reputation that we put out into the world. And Amy said it perfectly. We are marketing ourselves every single day. Every time you put on a t-shirt instead of a polo shirt for a video, or every time that you don't get all dressed up and professional looking when you go into the office, all of those things, those are kind of small ones, but those are types of situations where we are really marketing ourselves every single day for good or for bad. It doesn't mean that we can't be authentic and transparent and things like that, but what kind of message are you putting out into the world when you dress a certain way, when you speak a certain way? I just want you to be conscious of that. I surely make mistakes on that all the time. I know just wearing a t-shirt instead of dressing up for an online video or something like that, all those kinds of things can impact. Don't be too paranoid about it, but just be conscious of what kind of message you are sharing out into the world. I want to apologize for this episode being a day late. If you're listening to this in the future, just tune out for half a second. But if you're one of those people who listens to the show when it releases or within a couple of days, I just want to apologize. I was in Miami, Florida for the last week, and I didn't have internet at the hotel. I had scheduled Chris Cerrone's podcast, episode, 42 or 43, I think it was. And I had done that early, but I didn't get blog posts done. I didn't get this podcast done, so it's going out a day late, and I just wanted to apologize to that. But I also wanted to mention how cool it is to meet online people, your online friends, for the first time in real life. I want to give a shout out to John Harrison. I met him for the first time at Podcast South Florida on Saturday night. I'm so glad I got to meet Laura Sanchez, Jackie Jimenez, Danny Pena, who does the, what's his podcast? It's the Gamertag Radio, which is fantastic, and so many more people. Ted Rice, the Alpha Man. I met John Dennis, who does Smart Time Online. So many people. Donald Kelly. I'm just thinking of all of these awesome people who have made an impact on my life, and I got to meet all of those people in person on Saturday. If you're strictly online, if you're doing business online, just connect with people in real life. It will add so much value to your life, like those people have added value to my life. I just really encourage you to do that, and Podcast Movement would be a great way to do that. Stay connected with me. I'm not going to throw out my Twitter or Facebook. I just want you to go to empoweredpodcast.com/awesome. Go to empoweredpodcast.com/awesome. Sign up for that email list. I'll give you free stuff. I send out exclusive information that nobody else in the entire world gets. I connect with people. Social media moves so fast. It's like this fickle thing. It's just, it's over here, it's over there, it's all over the place. Email is the absolute best way to stay connected with me. Go to empoweredpodcast.com/awesome. There's a private list. I don't share that with anybody, and that is absolutely the best way to stay connected with what I'm doing, what I'm up to, and the message that I'm trying to share with the world. So I hope you have a wonderful week. We will talk to you in our next episode. This is the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Ellery Wells, and I'm genuinely glad you are here.